Hello, how are you doing this fine evening? It's now August 28th it's Friday evening here in Hong Kong. I've had a pretty restful day. It's been a really long 2 weeks for me, so today was a pretty quiet day. I still taught, but it was a pretty restful day, which was much, much needed. Anyway, I wanted to come on here to give everyone a bit of a debrief on what I experienced yesterday. So yesterday, I did my first ever Facebook Live, which was 2 hours long. Actually, I looked back; it was 2.5 hours long. Crazy, 2.5 hour long Facebook Live vocal performance, which I've never done before. Hello, Winnie. Hello, Winnie. There's a bit of an echo with the sound. Oh, I see. I think I know why. Let me get rid of that. Is that better? Let me know how the sound is. Is that any better? Can you let me know? Thank you. It's echoing. Let me try to get rid of that. Is that any better? Let me know how the sound is. Hello, Winnie Tam from Malaysia. Hello, everybody. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Okay, the sound is better. Excellent. And if it's okay, if it's loud enough for everybody. I just wanted to share my thoughts on how the performance went yesterday. If you don't know, I did a 2.5 hour live stream show with my friend Ryan Ho, who is a singer-songwriter in Hong Kong, and we were guests on Harry Ng's Facebook live show. Now, Harry Ng is a very well-known. Thank you, Chloe. Hello, thank you so much. The sound is better. Excellent. No more echo. Thank you, Winnie. And let me know if you guys watched the stream yesterday, and let me know how that was, if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here. Anyway, so last night we did this show, and with Ryan, who's a singer-songwriter in Hong Kong, and he and I were invited to go on Harry Ng's show. Now, Harry Ng has been doing these live stream performances for the past 4 months. So ever since live venues were closed in Hong Kong because of COVID, obviously. And so he started doing these live shows twice a week, Mondays and Thursday. I don't know how he has such incredible stamina to do these live shows every single week. It's amazing. And you can see when he's, if you're a fan, if you've been watching his shows, he's so energized by it. It seems like the more, the longer we go, the more energized he becomes. He was so energetic. And he was so passionate about with the show. And so that was amazing to be part of that. I don't know how he has the stamina really, but anyway, I wanted to come on here and to say hello to everybody. Hello, Jess. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Elman, I see you here, and thank you so much for supporting the show. I actually wanted to do a brief rundown, a debrief about sharing with you kind of behind the scenes, how I prepared for the show, how did I feel during it, what was it like, and also what went well and what I could have done better. And I just wanted to share that while it was still fresh in my memory, since it just happened last night. So that it was a long show. I mean, normally we do shows for an extended period of time. That's not usually a problem, but I'd never done a show live streamed before. Of course, I've been on live streams for things like teaching or speaking or presenting, but first, never ever over 2 hours. The longest thing that I've ever done is probably an hour and a half, never straight 2.5 hours, and definitely never singing for 2.5 hours. So that was definitely a first experience for me. How did I prepare? So let me just jump right in there. How did I prepare? Okay, somebody's asking me where do I watch this show? Actually, Winnie, you can watch it on my Facebook page. So if you go to Crystal Diaz Vocal Coach Facebook page, you are on Facebook right now. So if you go to my Facebook page, you'll see it in it's on the videos there. So it was live streamed on my video. So you can watch the replay. It's still there. And what's crazy to me is that I did not want to know how many people were watching. But Harry, I was kind of trying to ignore that. But Harry kept announcing it. You know, every 5 minutes he would announce, we got 900. Now we're just over 7,000. Right? And then you're like, wow, we're almost at 2,000. And I'd be like, Harry, stop telling me. So it was quite funny, but I kind of didn't want to know in a way. But and then now I just checked back. There's over 78,000 views on this show that we did, and I can't even wrap my head around that right now. I can't wrap my head around that there was 78,000 viewers who have watched the show that just happened, less than 24 hours ago. But anyway, I wanted you to know how I prepared for it. So how I prepared, I actually was not, my usual self is I like to prepare. But the past couple of weeks, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I just ran a week-long singing boot camp. And so a lot of my time was spent preparing for that and also just focusing on that. And as soon as that was over, that was when I started preparing for the show that I just did. So that wasn't the best, smartest thing, in hindsight, but I just didn't have time. So I started preparing on Monday. Okay, so today's Friday. The show was on Thursday. I started to prepare on Monday. And what I did was I knew that the show would probably be around 2 hours long, typically. And I knew that I would be singing with my friend Ryan. And I knew that we would be taking turns and we would sing a few songs together. So Ryan and I had a brief discussion on WhatsApp, kind of like, what songs do you know? And what songs should we sing together? It was literally like that, a bit of a back and forth messaging. And then we scrambled together. I picked about 12 to 13 songs that I could sing solo. And Ryan picked about the same number of songs to sing solo. And we also knew that we would be talking, we would be chit-chatting, but I did not want to have too little songs. I wanted to have more than enough songs so I knew that I wanted to at least have 12 to 13 songs, thinking that I might be singing for about an hour, and then Ryan would be singing for an hour. And then during that time, we would also be singing some duets. Now, here's the thing. Ryan and I have never performed together before. We've known each other for many years. We've known each other since we were kids. Ryan's father is Sam Hui, all of you know. And my mother is Christine Sampson. And they were friends. And so we would get together as kids. And Ryan works a lot with my brother, Adam Diaz. But he and I, other than I've coached him, I've taught him for his songs and helped him for his songs. I've never sung with Ryan before. And the other interesting thing about this is that both Ryan and I have never done our own live stream shows before. So this was kind of a new experience. There was a lot of new experiences for this show last night. First time Ryan and I sang together, and first time we were actually doing singing on such a long live stream show. So then how I prepared was that was it, was over WhatsApp. So we agreed on a few songs, and I was like, hey, well, do you know Shallow? And then Ryan said, I know it, but I've never played it before. Let's just try it. And then we kind of slapped together 4 songs that we would do. And also Ryan asked me to sing one of his duets. So he has a duet that he had recorded in one of his EPs that he had released a few years ago. And I'd helped him on it. I'd coached him on it, but I've never sung that song. So he gave it to me and he said, hey, if you can learn it. So I quickly learned it on Monday, learned all the lyrics for it. And then he and I rehearsed briefly on Wednesday. Okay, so just think about this. We started preparing on Monday. Then he and I kind of ran through our song list. And then Ryan and I got together at the studio on Wednesday night to run through our songs that we would sing together. That was the first time we'd done that. And the really funny thing is that if you watch the show, you would have heard Ryan talk about this. And he shared the story about how since having recorded that duet, he wrote the duet and he recorded it with Polly, who is a singer from Little Ashes, who's an independent, I think it's a indie band in Hong Kong. But he never actually sang that song live with another person before. So the first time that he sang it live was with me. And so he was saying that he was so used to singing that song as a solo that he had to get used to singing with somebody doing harmonies at the same time. So that was kind of a first experience for him too. Anyway, so that's how we prepared, literally. And then by the time we got to the show, so the show was at 9:30, and Harry asked us to be there and ready at 7 p.m. So Ryan and I got there at 7, and that was the first time we had, met with Harry. So 2.5 hours before the show, that's when Harry was like, okay, let's go through our songs. What are we going to sing? So I had given him some of my songs, and then Ryan went through his. And mainly what that was, we didn't sing all the songs, of course, before as a preparation. What we were doing is making sure that Harry knew our keys. So if you're a singer, then you're familiar with that is. Every song, you have to, as a singer, you have to know your key. That is so important, because if you are singing a song like I sang, I don't know, Imagine, I sang Imagine. That was one of the songs I sang yesterday. And if I don't know my key, or if Harry played the song in a different key, it would totally ruin my performance. It would be, I would be singing all over the place. It would be very uncomfortable for me. So knowing your keys was so important. So that's what we spent that first, from 7 p.m. that we were there until showtime, is kind of running through to make sure that Harry knew our keys. But we did not rehearse. So that really was like a no rehearsal kind of 2-hour performance. I like to rehearse. I'll just be honest. I like to rehearse. I'm the kind of person who likes to rehearse, but I also was up for the challenge. And Harry is so good. He's so good at what he does. He literally had some of the songs that I had on my list, and I knew my keys. I told him what it was. And then he would go away for 3 minutes, right? He'd be like, oh, I don't know this song. He would go to a different room for 3 minutes. He would play the song. He would write down all the chords of the song, right? By ear. He'd have his little piano. He's like banging through the song, writing the chords down. And then he would come back out and be like, okay, I got it. and then he would give one copy to Ryan, because Ryan had his guitar. And then we would just kind of try it for a few phrases. And that was it. And then Harry would be like, yeah, that's good. And then I'm like, okay, fingers crossed. But he was so good. And also, of course, this is what Harry does, right? That he's, professional. He's been doing these live shows for the past 4 months, every week, nonstop. So of course he was quick. But for me, that was a new experience to kind of put that together so quickly, and to not at least kind of run through it once or twice. But, it was such a great experience though. So that's how I prepared by not really preparing that much. So, all right. So that was it. And then, how did I feel going into the live show? So this is really interesting. So Ryan and I had a discussion about this actually, because of course, both he and I grew up performing. We've been performing on stage with our families and on our own for many years. And we're familiar. We have our own processes, right? Before going on stage. I think every singer does. We kind of have a moment where, we know what to expect. We run through it. We've done this. We know what the stage is going to feel like. We know what the equipment's going to sound like. We know where we're going to be, where all the musicians are going to be. We know kind of how our song is going to play out, because we would have done the sound check, things like that. But this was different because there was no stage. So we've never done that before. Usually we're backstage and we have our process. We kind of mentally are prepared. But for this one, there really wasn't any kind of mental preparation, because we didn't really know what to expect. And so he and I were waiting. If you guys watched it, you'll see how Harry usually does it, is that he'll have a few minutes where it's just 2 empty seats. And then, he's waiting for audiences to show up. And then he walks on, and then he introduces us, and then we walk on. So during that time where you're seeing the live stream of just the 2 empty seats, Ryan and I are in the background kind of pacing up and down the hallway, and we're like, I don't know what to expect. This will be really interesting. Who knows, right? And then he invites us on, and And then we're sitting there in a room that's quiet. And then there's a sound technician, Darren. He was great. I don't know if any of you have ever seen him, but he's behind the camera and he's handling all of the sound, all of the mic, and making sure it's broadcast, it's live stream, all nicely done up and everything. He handles all the tech. He's just behind the scenes all the time. Oh, you may have seen him come in to adjust the microphone. So that's Darren. Great guy. And so we come on, and of course, Ryan and I, again, we're used to live shows where we see you, right? We see faces, we see audience, and we can feel that energy coming from a live audience. We hear you, and we get this, and Ryan talked about it. I forgot the word he used, but it's like that pushback. It's a feeling of that pushback because you're in a physical environment with live audience. You hear them, you can see them, you sense them. There's an energy about it. And there wasn't that, of course, because we're literally looking at a camera and there's no one else. There's no clapping, there's no applause. So that was a very different and new experience for us. And it was exciting. But it felt very different from being on stage and being live. And I'm sure it's different for you too, as a viewer. My husband was watching the show and he was saying, I was in my pajamas watching you in a live show. And like, yeah, I think a lot of people were probably in their pajamas and watching. But one thing that was also interesting is that, when Harry told us to get our cell phones out, and then we could see people's responses. And that was interesting too. Like, I've never been able to do that. But what's also, it also gives a different feeling because people are actually telling us what they think at that moment, right? That's something we don't get in a live show. In a live show, we get the energy, we get the feeling, we get the audience, we see them, we can hear you clapping, we can hear you cheering, but we don't know what you're thinking. We don't know if you have any questions. We don't know how you're feeling or how you like that song, or did you like, what do you want to hear next, right? Unless people are yelling in the audience, right? But this time we could literally see, and all of us had different feeds, right? So Harry had his own feed and I had mine and Ryan has his, and we could see what everyone was thinking and saying. So that was something that I'd never done before. I'd never sang live in a live show with a direct feed of people's thoughts as I was singing. That was a very new experience for me. And thankfully, you were all so kind. Thank you so much for being so kind and so supportive and encouraging for all of us, because that was a new experience for us. So that was what it was like during the live during it. How did I feel? So that was kind of what I felt going in and kind of during as well. And then what did I feel afterwards? After the show, it was the same. It's the same thing as a real show, but it also wasn't. So it was the same in that you do get a high, right? Because music does that, especially when you're in a room full of people who love music and you're all passionate and you're all creating an experience, and we're sharing it with you, and then audiences are responding. And we know that people were online. I cannot believe that there were, from beginning to end, there were over 1,000 people watching us that stayed on for that whole time. I was just amazed, And but it's bizarre because I don't see your faces, right? But I just know from Facebook that's like, oh, that was 1,500 people are online, or 1,700 people are online, and so on. But afterwards, usually there's that feeling of that shared moment with the audience where they're clapping, and then you're taking your bow, and then you're acknowledging all the people. And there's that moment, that final moment of a show where it's a shared moment with the audience and a shared moment with the people around you. And we didn't really have that, right? So the show ended, and of course we gave our thanks. We sang our last song and we said goodbye, and then it was over. And then Ryan and I kind of walked out of the room and we were like, well, that just happened. Right. So yeah, it was, I don't know how to explain it. It was kind of similar in that there was still a high because it was a fun event and we both thoroughly enjoyed it. Super fun, and was great working with Harry and with Darren, and so great to sing with Ryan for the first time and have that experience. But at the end of the day, it was like it didn't feel exactly like we had done a show. So that was an interesting thing. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to make about that, but I wanted to lastly share with you what I felt went well, and then what could have been better. Okay, so I'm going to share candidly what I think I could have done better. So what went well? So having Ryan as a singing partner, for sure. I don't know that I would have been as comfortable doing something so new if it was just me. So I'm so glad that Ryan and I were both invited, and that we could have that experience together, because he and I, again, we grew up very similarly. And we have similar backgrounds and similar experiences with live performances, but then we also have never done a live stream quite like this before. So coming into it together and experiencing that together was definitely made it more comfortable as a first-time experience. And also Ryan is just so easy to work with, and plus we know each other, like I said. So it was really fun to share, to sing, and have that, like, okay, I'll sing and then you sing, and then I'll sing, then you sing, and then we'll sing together. So then I wasn't just singing one after another. So that made it easier, I think, for me to last for 2.5 hours long. And so that was great. The tech was really smooth. The tech was great. Darren was great. And Harry, again, masterful at it. He just put the songs together and he played so well. So it made me feel really comfortable. I could hear myself. In the room. There was monitors, and the mic setup was very comfortable. So all that was really good. Just really, really smooth. But like I said, Darren and Harry have been doing this for 4 months, twice a week. So of course they have it down like clockwork, really. And also one more thing is that I felt that I chose enough songs. I think both Ryan and I, we did well on that we had more than enough songs. I was a little worried, to be honest. I was a little worried because I didn't know, am I going to be singing the whole time, or how much time is going to be chatting, because it was so off the cuff in a way. It was kind of half improvised. So I didn't know if I had enough songs. But we did. And actually there was a few songs we didn't even get to sing that I had prepared to sing, but we didn't even get to it. We just didn't need to. So there's definitely more than enough songs. I'm just going to jump in here before I jump into what I think could have been better, because there's definitely things that I want to share with you. I'm just going to jump in here. Chloe, you watched from the beginning till the end. I know. I saw you. Thank you so much. That means so much to me. She says, I'm so proud as being one of your students. You sing so well. Oh, thank you, Chloe. And Steven, you says you made it look so effortless. Thank you. All an act. No, I'm just joking. It was as good as a studio recording. Oh, thank you so much, Steven. I really, really appreciate that. And Winnie, how do I attend lessons online? Yes, you can. onlinevocalacademy.com. So Winnie, if you look at my Facebook page, we are still running the Online Vocal Academy enrollment. The early bird pricing is over, but if you're interested, just send me a message and then I can hook you up with the Online Vocal Academy. That's where Chloe is on too. Oh, Chloe, you already answered her. Awesome. You are awesome. Thank you, Chloe. Hey, Zoe, and hey, Maria Chen. Nice to meet you too. So nice to meet you. All right. So what could have been better? Knowing my lyrics. So, like I said, I didn't leave myself a whole lot of time to prepare, just because everything kind of happened in one time. I had the online boot camp, and I was busy with that. There was a lot of work that was put into that. I didn't have the brain space to prepare until Monday, and so mainly I don't sing. I haven't been singing live because there's been no live shows. The last live show I should have done would have been my mother's solo concert. She should have done her solo concert in March of last year, but because of COVID, it got canceled. So that would have been our big show of the year. We usually do at least kind of one big show a year. That would have been it, but we didn't. So I don't really have a song list prepared. So I had to learn a lot of Cantonese and run through the Cantonese and the Mandarin word by word, making sure that I remember how to say all the words and how I would sing it. So I spent a lot of time on the Chinese songs, preparing that. But I wish I had in hindsight, I definitely probably should have prepared earlier, because a lot of songs that I sang last night I'd never sung before, a lot of them. So they were very new for me. And so I think if I had known my lyrics better, I would have been able to focus more on just the delivery rather than worrying about looking at the lyrics and making sure I'm saying the words correctly. So definitely I wish I'd known my lyrics more. Okay, so this one is an interesting one. Harry is very he kind of goes by his intuition, and he was improvising, right? So he would be, oh, what song do you want to sing next, and what should we do now? And then he would kind of go by feel. So that was great. But I think for me, I probably, and so I didn't. So what I'm saying is, I knew that going in, but I didn't. So I didn't prepare a rundown for myself, which I normally do. So, but when I normally go on stage, I'm quite strategic about what song goes first. Vocally, that's important, because you don't want to be singing all your hard songs in one go, and then all the easy ones in one go. You kind of want to spread it out. And you also want to have an idea of the flow of the show. So you want to be picking your songs, like, what songs you're going to do in the beginning and how you're going to do the middle and what's going to be the finale and things like that. You generally have an idea going into show, but I didn't for this time because I knew that Harry likes to kind of play and do different things, which was totally fine. But I think in hindsight, it would have been smart for me personally to have in my head a general idea of what song I wanted to go first and what song I wanted to end with. So yesterday I didn't have that plan. So it was kind of like, oh, we'll just do whatever. But I think it would have been smarter if I had more of a plan, so that if Harry asked me, hey, what song you want to do first, I could at least have an answer, be like, okay, definitely, let's do this one first. Then I know I have a bit of a plan of like, okay, pick the harder ones maybe a little bit later. Let's do some upbeat and then easy ones in the middle or whatnot. If I had a loose plan, I think that would have been a smart thing to do. Okay, so what's next? Another thing is that I wish I could have done a longer sound check. I love sound checks, and I always tell my students that whenever they perform, sound check is so important. It makes you feel really comfortable of going in, and so and you have an idea mentally. You have an idea of like, what it's going to be like. There really wasn't a sound check because we spent most of the time running through the keys and making sure, running through all the keys of the songs, mainly checking the keys. So I didn't really get a chance to do a sound check with the actual equipment, which I should have done. And the reason I should have done that is because the sound was great in the room. I could hear myself, but I had no idea what you guys were hearing. And so that is something that I love. I always try to know when I'm preparing for a live show. So when I'm typically in a live show, I would do the sound check, but I would also record it. I would also have somebody take my phone or something and record it from the audience, because what you're hearing as a singer on stage is different from what the audience will hear. Right? Because what you hear coming back at you on the stage is different from what the audience sitting down looking at you is going to hear. And I always like to know what the audience is hearing. And that just makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. It also tells me it gives me more of an idea of how to use the microphone. If you watch the show, you may have seen like me moving away from the microphone sometimes because, again, I didn't want to suddenly go louder. I didn't know what the audience was hearing. So that's one thing that I wish I could have done better. But that's just something that was probably, we probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to, but that's just something that I think I could have done better on. And the other last thing is two more things. One is that I wish I planned my food better. So there's a thing, people ask me, what do you eat or before a show? Like, what do you eat? Is there any specific things you should avoid? I avoid all coffee. I avoid dairy generally. That's just me. That's not necessarily true for everybody. But one rule that I always have is that I always make sure that I finish eating 2 hours before I perform. And I didn't do that yesterday. And the reason why is because I knew I had to be at the studio by 7. So I ate at home at 6. And then by 8 o'clock, I was a little bit hungry. And so I ate a little bit at 8 o'clock. And then the show was at 9:30. And that was probably not a good idea because my throat was not super clear yet. And so it took me a few songs to feel clear again. It took me a little while to actually feel clear. So that is something I should have done because I normally do that. I just didn't do it like that. I didn't plan it that way very well. So I should have done that. So I should have stopped eating by 7:30, 2 hours before the show. And that usually works really, really well for me. I just didn't do that last night. So my fault. And the last little thing that I could have done better, I should have done, and this is something I normally do. I just don't know why I didn't do it yesterday. Just weird. I should have done a couple of vocal drills, simple vocal exercising drills, 15 minutes or so before the live stream. And I didn't because we were still going through our keys, right? So Harry was still charting some of the songs, some of the chords. We were still running through, and he would ask me, is this the right key? Let's just do it real quick. And so actually, I guess there wasn't really an opportunity for me to go away for 10 minutes to do a couple of hey. I usually do that before any live performances. The reason I do that is not so much to warm up my voice, but to remind myself where I want to be singing technically, to remind myself, okay, those are where I want to throw my high notes. That's how I want to sound when I'm being a little bit more belty, or here's where I want to sound when I'm being a little bit more quiet. I usually run through a bunch of different sounds so that I can remind myself and remind my body, how I want to create these sounds when I'm on stage, when I'm on camera performing. I didn't do that. So that's why I was a little bit nervous going in, not nervous in terms of feeling nervous, but just technically, I was a little careful. I don't know if you noticed that. So first few songs that I sang, I was a little bit careful. And then once I kind of got more comfortable with the whole setup and with everything, then it was great. And I was really enjoying, and I felt like I could be in the moment. But I wish that I had spent a bit of time before the show just running through some tech drills. And I know that in future, I will make that a point to do that. I usually do that again. It's just because we haven't been performing for a while. So I guess I just didn't follow my own rules. So that was it. So I hope that was helpful. That was interesting. Gives you a little bit of an insight here. And hello, Maria. You said it's the first time you heard me sing last night. I hope you enjoyed it. So nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. And hey, Zoe, lovely to meet you. And you enjoy the show. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you all so much for watching and for showing and for just being there. And that gave us so much energy and made the experience so fun. I hope that we can do that again another time. And thank you. And I hope that this was interesting for you, a little bit behind the scenes. And have a good evening. I'm going to rest now. It's been a very busy 2 weeks. And I'll see you guys another time. Hi, Elman. Hi, lovely to have you here. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for seeing the show. Good show. Thank you so much, Joyce. That means so much to all of us. Thank you so, so much. As performers, we don't get to be with you guys right now, right? We don't get to do anything live with you. So that does, it has an impact on us. Just, this is what we love to do. We love to be with you. We love to be in an audience with you and to share music with you live and have that experience. And we don't get to do that. So having you online, having the space where you're showing up and you're giving us encouragement, you're there, and of course, hopefully you're enjoying the show as well. It means so much to us. It means the world to us. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much. All right. Take care all. Have a good night. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time. Bye.